Hello there, my name is JT Scott, and I am doing my documentary on the effect of video games on the mind. During this documentary, I will cover three essential topics. One will be the most common misconceptions in video gaming and how they are wrong. Two will be the most common benefits and best benefits for the human mind. Finally, I will cover some games that are good for the mind and how video games are already being used in the workforce to help improve productivity. Now, I'm going to show you a short video on the two most common misconceptions about video gaming.
One first saying that I'm sure you all have heard is the fact that too much screen time makes your eyesight worse. That's a statement about vision. There may be vision scientists among you. We actually know how to test that statement. We can step into the lab and measure how good your vision is. Well, guess what? People that don't play a lot of action games, that don't actually spend a lot of time in front of screens, have normal, or what we call corrected to normal vision. That's okay. The issue is what happens with these guys that actually indulge into playing video games like 5 hours per week, 10 hours per week, 15 hours per week. By that statement, their vision should be really bad, right? Guess what? Their vision is really, really good. It's better than those that don't play. And it's better in two different ways. The first way is that they're actually able to resolve small detail in the context of clutter. Though that means being able to read the fine print on prescription rather than using magnifier glasses, you can actually do it with just your eyesight. The other way that they are better is actually being able to resolve different levels of gray. Imagine you're driving in the fog. That makes a difference between seeing the car in front of you and avoiding the accident or getting into an accident. So we're actually leveraging that work to develop games for patients with low vision and to have an impact on retraining their brain to see better. Clearly, when it comes to action video games, screen time doesn't make your eyesight worse. Another saying that I'm sure you have all heard around: video games lead to attention problem and greater distractibility. Okay, we know how to measure attention in the lab. I'm actually going to give you an example of how we do so. I'm going to ask you to participate, so you're going to have to actually play the game with me. I'm going to show you colored words. I want you to shout out the color of the ink, right? So this is the first example. Orange, good. Green, red, yellow, red, yellow. Good. You got my point, right? You're getting better, but it's hard. Why is it hard? Because I introduced a conflict between the word itself and its color. How good your attention is determines actually how fast you resolve that conflict. So the young guys here at the top of their game probably liked it a little better than some of us that are older. What we can show is that when you do this kind of task with people that play a lot of action games, they actually resolve the conflict faster. So clearly, playing those action games doesn't lead to attentional problems. Actually, those action video game players have many other advantages in terms of attention. And one aspect of attention which is also improved for the better is our ability to track objects around in the world. This is something we use all the time. When you're driving, you're keeping track of the cars around you. You're also keeping track of the pedestrian, the running dog, and that's how you can actually be safe driving, right? In a lab, we get people to come to the lab, sit in front of a computer screen, and we give them little tasks that I'm going to get you to do again. You're going to see yellow happy faces and a few sad blue faces. These are children in the schoolyard in Geneva during recess, during the winter. Most kids are happy. It's actually recess. But a few kids are sad and blue because they've forgotten their coat. Everybody begins to move around, and your task is to keep track of who had a coat at the beginning and who didn't. So I'm just going to show you an example where there is only one sad kid. It's easy because you can actually track it with your eyes. You can track, and then when it stops and there's a question mark and I ask you, did this kid have a coat or not? Was it yellow initially or blue? I hear a few yellow. Good. So most of you have a brain. I'm now going to ask you to do the task, but now with a little more challenging task. There are going to be 3 of them that are blue. Don't move your eyes. Please don't move your eyes. Keep your eyes fixated and expand, pull your attention. That's the only way you can actually do it. If you move your eyes, you're doomed. Yellow or blue? Good. So your typical, normal, young adult can have a span of about 3 or 4 objects of attention. That's what we just did. Your action video game player has a span of about 6 to 7 objects of attention, which is what is shown in this video here. That's for you guys, action video game player. They're more challenging, right? Yellow or blue? Blue. We have some people that are serious out there, yeah. Good. So, in the same way that we actually see the effects of video games on people's behavior, we can use brain imaging and look at the impact of video game on the brain. And we do find many changes, but the main changes are actually to the brain networks that control attention.
So, as the video has demonstrated, video games are actually extremely helpful for a person's eyesight and their ability to track objects throughout the world, compared to the common misconception that mass media likes to throw around. Now I will show off some other benefits, along with some statistics, as shown in the video made by ASAP Science on video games.
Video games provide a fun escape from reality, though they're often portrayed as violent, lazy, and a waste of time by some. The debate has raged on for years, so are there any positive effects? Can video games actually make you smarter? Before we get ahead of ourselves, it's important to note that too much of anything is bad. Even broccoli. Seriously, extremely high doses of broccoli can actually be toxic. Heck, even water toxicity exists. So if you binge and do nothing but play video games, the risks probably outweigh any benefits. In fact, we have an entire video devoted to what would happen if you stopped going outside and the negative effects of sitting, linked in the description. Having said that, many studies have actually shown increases in cognitive function after playing video games. One study in particular had participants play Super Mario 64 for 30 minutes a day over 2 months. Afterwards, the brains of these participants saw an increase of gray matter in areas associated with memory, strategic planning, and fine motor skills of the hands compared to those who had not played. These are particularly encouraging results for mental disorders which cause these brain regions to shrink, using video games as a therapy. Surprisingly, action games can also increase attention to detail in individuals. Take a look at the following words on screen and yell out what color the word is as fast as you can. So, green, blue, orange. Okay, now try a bit faster without me. As we continue, it becomes more difficult because there is a conflict between the word itself and its color. Chances are, if you play more than 5 to 10 hours of action games a week, you're able to solve these problems much more quickly. This is because your brain is actually more efficient in the regions associated with attention. Of course, video games can also be incredibly educational, and while you may not be playing some of your favorite games for this purpose, there are certainly many games that are used as effective teaching tools for both young and old. They may even help kids who suffer from dyslexia read more effectively. In a small study, dyslexic children who played regular video games ended up reading faster and more accurately, once again relating to improved attention skills. Meanwhile, other studies have found improvements in eyesight. Not only can they see smaller details more clearly, like tiny writing, but they have an easier time differentiating levels of gray. Very practiced action gamers were 58% better at perceiving fine differences in contrast, which is important as this is one of the first things to diminish with age. Even in the elderly, improved memory and focus is seen. More importantly, specially designed brain-teasing video games have been shown to slow the aging process of the brain by up to 7 years. This is because they are cognitively complex and require mental energy. Think you're able to keep track of what's in front of your eyes? Keep an eye on the blue circle here. Eventually, it will turn yellow like all the others. I will then point to a circle and you tell me if it was originally blue. If you knew this ball wasn't blue, then you're a functioning human being. But let's make it harder. Staring at the middle of the screen can help to keep track of the blue circles. Was this circle originally blue? If you said no, you'd be right. One more time, but with 5 blue circles. Was this one originally blue? Yep, it was. It turns out the average person can track about 3 to 4 objects, while practiced action gamers can track around 6 to 7. Finally, as technology continues to transform medicine, surgeries are being completed with the insertion of cameras and remote-controlled tools. And these surgeries have very clear parallels to video games with a screen and a controlling device. Not surprisingly, young doctors with previous exposure to video games show fewer errors and faster completion than those without. Of course, all of these skills are only useful if you use them, which you can't if all you do is play video games. So enjoy your downtime and relax with your games in moderation, but get out there and keep your life diverse as well, because that's how you'll win at the game of life.
Now, I'm sure you noticed that both the videos tended to lean towards action games and games similar to them as the source for their benefits. However, not all games are created equal, just like how video games cannot be easily compared to stuff like social media and Facebook. Of course, action-packed games like the Doom games or the Titanfall games, which are very fast-paced and require very good situational awareness and reaction speed, are good for your attention to detail and vision. However, there are other games, like the ever-popular game of Minecraft, which help evoke a creative element in players by challenging them to create the biggest, most powerful things they can imagine using nothing but their imagination. And then there's also more strategic-based games, like the Persona series. The Persona series is very well renowned for being a good strategy RPG, or otherwise known as role-playing game. In the Persona series, you go through turn-based combat and have to figure out enemy strengths and weaknesses, sort of like the Pokemon games. This helps evoke memory skills and strategic planning in individuals. Now, one more type of game is the Helldivers type of game. A top-down shooter with friendly fire, or the ability to hurt your teammates. But players need to have good situational awareness in order to avoid hurting their teammates while simultaneously damaging their enemies. This type of game encourages adaptability and situational awareness. Now, in recent months, some video game companies have been taking advantage of players' dopamine highs whenever they earn rare loot by using a system called the Loot Crate system. With this system, players earn randomized content from virtual boxes that have no guarantee on what they earn unless otherwise explicitly stated. In these types of games, players are often either forced to play for extreme amounts of time in order to progress and earn the loot boxes, or the loot boxes are purchase only. And companies tend to circumvent players just playing for a long time by locking some loot box loot behind the paywalls. You can't earn these boxes for free. This video by Tech Tips I'm going to show you will very clearly lay out what loot boxes are and how video gaming has progressed to this.
Remember when buying and playing your games was a relatively simple affair? You'd go to the store, walk out with a shiny new box, and pop the CD or cartridge inside your game machine of choice. Whatever the physical copy of the game came with would be more or less the content you'd get. Then, of course, digital distribution happened, with developers seizing upon the opportunity to use always-on internet connections to offer gamers first bug fixes and patches, then later, additional content for a small fee. This DLC takes the form of anything from additional levels and maps to new in-game items or weapons to purely cosmetic upgrades, like horse armor. Some DLC offerings are viewed as true extras, ones that aren't essential to enjoy the base game. But others have been far more controversial, including the subject of today's video. Virtual loot boxes that contain a collection of in-game items which have been randomized to some extent. These loot boxes are common in free-to-play titles, especially mobile games, and While it's commonly understood that they're kind of the price that some gamers choose to pay to help themselves and their non-paying brethren enjoy a title that's otherwise free, this is where the subject gets a little touchy. They've also become much more prevalent recently in games that folks are already paying for, including some high-budget AAA titles that command a premium price. Of course, this doesn't mean that loot boxes are universally unpopular. Some games, such as Overwatch, limit loot box contents to cosmetic options that don't affect core gameplay, while in other games, like FIFA, they take the form of virtual Ultimate Team card packs that many gamers seem to enjoy opening in hopes of finding one of their favorite, highly rated players inside. In that case, it's become a staple of the series and a selling point in and of itself, one that reportedly rakes in about $800 million per year for Electronic Arts. Other games, however, have faced significant backlash for what many perceive as the use of loot boxes in an exploitative manner, giving players something of a non-choice between spending extra money for loot boxes that contain items they more or less need to advance through the game, or to have a chance against others in multiplayer who pay, and simply trying to acquire enough in-game XP to unlock these items without additional cost. Well, wait, hold on. I mean, that second one sounds reasonable enough, right? Play the game, earn XP, level up. No big deal, right? Well, the problem is that in some cases, unrealistically high amounts of playtime have been required to unlock these goodies, as was the case in the well-publicized debacle around the release of Star Wars Battlefront 2. And adding even more fuel to this controversy is that there is no way to know for sure what you will even get inside a loot box. Although many games give gamers an idea of what they can get, with more expensive loot boxes giving you higher odds of receiving premium items, there's still a chance that you can pay a considerable amount of money and still not get the item or the character that you need to push you over the edge during gameplay. And because of the chance that the player won't get desired items after spending real money, the purchase of loot boxes is considered by some to be a form of gambling, an argument that gains credibility when you consider the first one's always free model that's popular with casino hotels that often issue new gamblers free play vouchers, and that the algorithms that decide how often loot boxes will contain desirable items are reminiscent of those used in real-life slot machines, which you can learn more about here. This similarity has actually led several countries, notably in Europe and Asia, to consider regulating the usage of loot boxes by game developers. But there's a counter-argument that says buying a loot box isn't all that different than buying a pack of baseball cards or Pokemon cards. There's always something of value inside, even if it might not be exactly what you wanted. This contrasts with traditional gambling, in which players often lose money while getting nothing but the remnants of an endorphin rush in return. With all of that in mind, though, given how lucrative certain loot box implementations have been, it's likely that they're here to stay. So how do you avoid getting ripped off? The most important thing is to vote with your wallet. Instead of buying titles immediately, wait and see if other players think that that game you want is using loot boxes as part of a shady pay-to-win model. And if you feel compelled to open loot boxes, well, try supporting the ones that provide you with fun and optional features. Or, as a third option, you can get yourself the equivalent of a digital Nicorette patch and grab one of those loot box simulators that have been popping up lately on Steam.
Amidst the whole loot box debacle, I would argue that there is a chance to improve yourself with this new system. By actively forcing yourself to not buy the loot boxes, you are teaching yourself self-restraint, which is very important in today's society. Now we move on to the last part of this documentary. How do video games affect the job industry? Well, in the US Navy, some submarines are actually using Xbox 360 controllers to control the periscopes on Virginia-class submarines. Once one of these ships, the USS Colorado, was deployed in November. This article, published by the website The Verge, goes over how the US Navy is now using some Xbox 360 controllers in their submarines. These controllers will replace a very complex-looking helicopter-style control stick, which is very expensive to make, costing upwards of $38,000 to make per submarine. In comparison, Xbox controllers only cost around $20. By simplifying the controls and reducing operating costs, this allows the US Navy to be able to mass-produce ships at a much higher rate with minimal cost increase. One of the main reasons the US Navy is using these controllers now is because of feedback from their junior officers and sailors who recommended the controls option over the heavy, clunky-looking control stick. This is representative of changing society. Because most young people play video games now, by introducing a familiar control scheme to them, they perform better at their jobs and more efficiently. This is crucial for today's market, where almost everything requires simplicity and ease of use. So, in summary, two of the biggest misconceptions about video gaming are the screen time will hurt your eyes, and that they create distraction problems and attention problems. Of course, both are almost entirely false. Obviously, moderation is key in terms of playing video games, and it is essential that you do not binge. Binging is always bad, but in moderated amounts, video games can improve your eyesight and improve your attention and tracking ability. Along with that, other types of games, besides action games, are better for your memory, your strategic mindset, or your creativity. Of course, there are some companies that will try and exploit you using their very enticing loot box systems. By not forcing yourself to buy them, you teach yourself self-restraint. Self-restraint is, of course, a very important social skill. And video games, especially in recent years, have started to become used in workplaces to help improve the simplicity and efficiency of their work, such as the US Navy using submarine Xbox controllers in their submarines, and some doctors' institutes using video game-like setups to help improve their surgeries. And so, this brings us to the end of my documentary. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you learned something new about video games. Thank you for watching.